Top of the Sports Mag Zone for this Monday. Football is where we start. Manchester City and Liverpool played out an entertaining 2-2 draw in their English Premier League top of the table clash. This happening at the Etihad on Sunday. Both teams gave as good as they got, with no quarter given and none asked. City twice went ahead, but the Merseyside Reds had a response both times. Here's Kevin De Bruyne, virtuoso, and opening the scoring with a deflected strike. Celebration there from Man City. This after only 5 minutes. Diego Jota equalised for Liverpool just 7 minutes later. And the Reds back in business. On the stroke of half-time, Gabriel Jesus put City in front with this well-taken finish. At the break, Jurgen Klopp was in the unfamiliar territory, forced to his team talk with the Reds trailing, which hadn't happened so far this year. And whatever he said worked instantly, as 47 seconds after the restart, Sadio Mane drew Liverpool level with his 13th goal of the season, assisted there by Mo Salah. Now City thought they had won it late with this Raheem Sterling strike. And later the Etihad held its collective head when Riyad Mahrez missed a glorious opportunity to score. Mahrez coming on as a substitute in the second half and having a glorious opportunity here, but not finding the target. This is what Kevin De Bruyne said after the game. Riyad Mahrez chose to chip the keeper. If it goes in, it's a wonder goal, but it didn't happen. We played very well and had the upper hand. We didn't win. It can happen, but that's the way we need to play going forward. Now, as it stands, this is how the top of the table looks at the moment, as it was before the weekend, with just 1 point separating Man City from Liverpool. City up to 74 points, Liverpool on 73. Then a further 9 points behind in third, we've got Chelsea. Tottenham completing the top 4 at the moment on 57 points. They're 5 behind Chelsea at the moment. Arsenal on 54. West Ham on 51. Now, Simon Evans, our European football correspondent, is on Zoom, and he joins us to review this thriller and the other matches from round 32. Simon, we're over 24 hours on now from this classic. Many people believe that it delivered the classic that we expected. Did it tick all the boxes for you?
Yeah, it did. It really did. It got such a hype and build-up, didn't it? But it really lived up to expectations, lived up to the billing. It was, it was exciting and enthralling from the first minute to the last. I mean, City came out really, really fast, got that early goal, and then nearly won it at the end as well. Liverpool held their own, came back twice. It really had everything. It was high energy, high technique. It was a great combination of two wonderful teams.
Yeah, Simon, talk to us about the first 10 to 15 minutes of this game, because I don't know if it was nerves or what, but Liverpool's defence line looked very, very unsteady. Would it have been nerves?
I think they were a bit shocked by the way City approached the game. I mean, Pep Guardiola basically played Liverpool at their own game. He didn't play the false nine. He didn't play that kind of short passing football we expected. He played Raheem Sterling as a proper number 9 down the middle. He brought Gabriel Jesus in on the right, and they were hitting balls over the top. They were going aggressively. That kind of swarming attack that we see from Liverpool is exactly what City did, and Liverpool couldn't cope with it.
Yeah, and Simon, as you mentioned, Raheem Sterling, was that goal offside?
Yeah, it was just offside. I mean, it was. He leaned into his run before he started. If he hadn't done that, perhaps he might just have been onside. Very, very close. The kind of one that wouldn't have been given before VAR's introduction, but there we go. That's what it's there for. He was just offside.
Yeah, and based on the fact that it was a 2-2 draw, Manchester City, many people felt as if they had the edge to get the 3 points. Of course, others thinking that Liverpool had the edge. My question to you is based on the fact that Jack Grealish was a $100 million pound signing. He was supposed to be starting games. He was supposed to be effecting change. Is it that Jack Grealish is being protected by the players that are doing well for Manchester City and the results going, in Manchester City's favour? So much so that people aren't really pressuring him because, City is getting the job done.
I just don't think he's quite fit into City yet. I mean, he's not been terrible. He's not been a flop or anything like that. He's still shown his skill set that we saw at Aston Villa. But he hasn't quite become that dominant figure we expected him to be at City. So, you know, City went with the pace and aggression of Sterling and Jesus and Foden as their front three yesterday. I can't see Grealish playing in that style. He's much more suited to when they do play with the false nine and there's the sort of five behind, moving the ball around. But it just hasn't quite happened for Jack Grealish. First season, we'll see how it goes next year. I don't think Pep Guardiola is panicking because technically he's a very, very gifted footballer. But it is strange, you're right, to look at that game and think, you know, here's City, they need a goal towards the end and they've got a guy who cost 100 million who's an attacking player sat on their bench.
Yeah, and before I pass along to George, I had the producer prep a graphic. You know, there is the schedule for both teams. Which team do you think has the easier schedule and, you know, can close this one out?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's difficult to say because a lot of people would say that Liverpool has the tougher schedule there. When you look at it, there's Manchester United, Everton, Tottenham in there. Wolves is not an easy one, whereas City, you know, there isn't the same kind of test. But having said that, you know, Gary Neville made this point yesterday. Is Manchester United or Everton really a tough game anymore? I mean, after the way those two performed on Saturday, you would have to say not really. So I don't think there's a huge amount between it. I think a key factor is going to be what happens to them in Europe. City have a tough game away to Atletico Madrid this week. Liverpool, for example, have a much easier game against Benfica, already 3-1 up from the first leg. So things like that will start to come into it. Liverpool will be able to rest in midweek, City won't.
Simon, Jordan Henderson.
Yes, Jordan Henderson.
Yes, Jordan Henderson. Because if you look at the most of the publications which do player ratings after the game, he got an average of about 5.5 from most of the places who do rankings. And on the social media forums, he's been the subject of a lot of criticism. Even the Liverpool Echo, you know, that fan forum corner, they've been giving him a lot of stick, saying they don't see why Klopp persists with him because he looks out of place in the Liverpool team because the levels of the players around him so high and he middling to good at the best of times. Other times he's rank ordinary, and they say they can't see why he gets into the team every week ahead of people who are more capable than him. What's your take?
I think the strange thing about the way Henderson is playing at the moment is the position he's in. He's actually the most advanced of the midfield players, which is not the role that he's played for most of his career. For most of his career, he was considered a defensive midfielder or an up-and-down midfielder, and he's actually in there in that attacking role. And he doesn't really have the qualities for playing that position. He's not somebody who's going to play that killer pass very often. He's a workhorse, he's a grafter, he's somebody who can sit in front of the defence. But they have Fabinho in that position. When you have Thiago Alcantara in the side as well, he likes to sit a little bit. So he's a little bit out of place there. And that's one thing that this Liverpool side is missing, really. They don't have somebody in that advanced midfield position unless, you know, Naby Keita can do it sometimes, but he's more of a sort of busy up and down midfielder as well. They don't really have that creative midfielder who can play the killer ball from the central areas. They don't need it so often because so often the killer balls are coming from Alexander-Arnold and Robertson out wide. But I agree that he looks out of place. I like Jordan Henderson as a player. He's a limited player, but he knows his limitations. But I think his position is much better in that deeper, more defensive midfield role.
The performance of the referee also attracted its own commentary because especially City fans felt that he should have acted in a different way, been more severe in cautions on Fabinho and Thiago Alcantara in that second half. I interpreted it as him not wanting to spoil the spectacle of the game, being mindful of the occasion of the match. Some people say that shouldn't go into refereeing. I disagree. And so there's this divergence of opinion about the referee being compelled to interpret the game to the letter of the law, as opposed to the other side, which believes that a referee has to take into account the occasion and referee accordingly. All in all, did you think the referee had a good game and was right in his decision not to, as some people would wish, send off Fabinho or Thiago or both?
No, I think he had a good game. I mean, I really do. I think they've been told this year, the referees, to let the game flow more, to not interrupt and disrupt with small fouls, to be more sceptical about players who go down easily, as the cliche goes. And I think in a game like this, which is the showcase of the Premier League to the world, it's vital that the referee does that. Would have been terrible if that game was being stopped for every elbow, push and shove that was going on the field. Because what I liked about that game yesterday was we know how good technically both those sides are. They're full of world-class players. But they still play like it's an English derby match. They're playing at 100 miles an hour. They're playing aggressive football as well. And it's that fusion, that coming together of that European know-how, skill, tactics, sophistication with the sort of blood and thunder English football that I think makes the Premier League the most popular league in the world. And it needs referees who will let the game flow. And I think he, on the whole, did that.
Yeah, and you said some things in that response which have seeded my next question. Because here's the thing, Simon. For many years, watching the derby in, let's say, Spain. If I go to Italy, I'm going too far back for some of my viewers, and I want to keep everybody with us. But if you use Spain as a reference point, Simon, there were many years in El Clasico, Real versus Barcelona, where you felt as if you were watching the best club football game in the world. And you knew you were, given the status of the teams and the quality of players all around. And you knew that the players in England and elsewhere watched El Clasico and felt envious. And perhaps it is that a good case could be made that the best players in England could not make those EPL squads. Conversely, when the EPL had their summit meetings, you always knew in the back of your mind that no matter how good the game was, the players from Man United and Liverpool or Arsenal or Chelsea, whatever the case may be of the head-to-head, that at their best, they couldn't get into the top two teams in Spain. Based on what we saw in Sunday, do we have a reverse of what we've enjoyed over the years, where now it's the EPL by virtue of this, I want to say rivalry, but this coming together of Liverpool and Manchester City, that the EPL is the one now setting the standard, and that the EPL has the players that the rest of the club footballing world envies?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I remember when I was working in the United States, and a lot of soccer fans there would be watching the Premier League every week, except for the weekend when the Clasico was on. And then they'd switch and go and watch that because it really was the top football. You didn't want to miss that. And I think now you're probably getting the opposite happening in a lot of places in the world, where maybe people who are, you know, Hispanics who have a natural affinity for the Spanish league and so on will switch to watch the Premier League when there's games like that on because they know it is the pinnacle. And the difference as well is, you know, when we had those great games between Manchester United and Arsenal, big battles, Chelsea in the past with Mourinho, Ferguson, Wenger, all those kind of battles going on, we'd get all excited about it in England, and then the teams would go and lose to Spanish sides in the Champions League. I don't feel like that's what the situation is now. I don't feel like we're watching the Premier League and then we're going to see them flop in Europe, because I think what we're going to see this season in the Champions League is Liverpool and Manchester City. There's a good chance that both of them go all the way.
Yeah, and the other point, Simon, is this. The strength and the depth of squad. Usually, as Sir Alex Ferguson famously said, you will drop points at this stage of the season. The running is always difficult. You're going to be a draw or two or a defeat. Well, usually a one defeat, but a couple draws in the running. Based on the quality and the depth of squad of these two teams, isn't it logical for supporters of either side to believe that there is the quality and depth of squad within the two units, notwithstanding their Champions League commitments, to finish the season unbeaten?
Yeah, I think so. Not only unbeaten, but one of those two sides could actually win all 7 of their remaining games. That wouldn't be something that would be considered amazing. A 7-game winning run is not something that's abnormal for either of those sides. So absolutely it's the case. And they do have a lot of options, both of them. I would probably say City more than Liverpool, but even Liverpool, you know, they brought in Luis Diaz in January, and he's had a huge impact. He was on the bench yesterday, but, you know, he'll probably be playing midweek in the Champions League and will impress and shine, and people will say he should be playing the FA Cup at the weekend. So both of them have 2 players for every position, really, which makes them sides that should be able to cope with playing 2 games a week from now until the end of the season.
Hear you on that. Thank you, my friend. We'll talk again. All the best.
All the best. Cheers.
Good. Yeah, it's your segment. It's Lance's. I'm troubling you. Yeah, so the game was a good game. If you notice, I'm cool on the classic because I'm saying the classic games, Lance, Mariah, are the ones you are certain to remember years from now.
Yeah.
I don't think I remember this 2-all draw.
No, it was really, really exciting.
It was yeah, I give it that, but the people are saying it was a classic match.
The intensity at which both teams played, I felt as if it had everything in it. The only thing it didn't have was a winner, like an outright winner. But I enjoyed every minute of it. There was a moment I felt, all right, City had it. But then halftime, I don't know what Klopp would have said to Liverpool. They came back, all guns blazing. So, there was not a minute in that game that I could have taken my eyes out off the screen. There was everything to watch.
The interesting question that you put to Simon towards the back end of the interview there, George, because for the most part, the build-up for the game, which I listened mostly to the BBC and British-based broadcast houses, and they effortlessly suggested that these are the best two teams in the world, which is kind of the question you were trying to put to Simon earlier on. You know me, I hesitate to heap that kind of status on something unless it's irrefutable. I think there's an argument that they could be the best two teams in the world at the moment, but I don't think it's conclusive, and maybe the Champions League will tell us something as well. But they are attractive teams, and they are good teams to watch. And for the spectacle, I wasn't that infuriated by the comment labeling these two teams the best two teams in the world, but because of how they play and because of their attacking efficiency, I said, let them have their day. But it was a good game. I thought it was a very entertaining game.
I know you're going to jump in. I listened to that debate too, but then I thought about Real Madrid right now because they seem to be, really, really, really efficient right now also. So do they join the conversation?
I think that for the first time in my lifetime, I would say that the two best teams in world football right now are from England, and they are Manchester City and Liverpool. There's no doubt in my mind. Real Madrid, at their very best, can't beat City.
So what happens if they don't bear that out in the Champions League?
That's the point, my friend. Because here's the thing. We are forgetting, everybody is lavishing praise on both teams, especially Liverpool. If the world ended today, the greatest club team in the history of Liverpool, the greatest team in Liverpool's Premier League history from 1992, would have only won 3 trophies. One League Cup, which nobody really values anymore. And people don't value it because when Manchester United say they won it, people say, you haven't won anything, so we must accept it when it's on the other side. And they won the Champions League once and the Premier League once. So Liverpool's greatest Premier League team won 2 real trophies and the League Cup. The fact is, Manchester United's greatest Premier League team won the treble. The Premier League, the FA Cup, and the Champions League. Chelsea can say they won the double. Arsenal can say they won the double, although they didn't win Europe. But Chelsea has European Champions League winning teams. So the point I'm making is this. At the end of the day, no matter how great you say you are as a club team, you have to show the trophies to back it up. And that's where Liverpool is lacking in terms of the number of trophies, and the City must add the Champions League to it to make it a complete set. And then you can boast and talk to me about best English side ever. Until then, it's just talk.
I agree.
Yeah, that's where I am as well, because as I said, the Champions League, it will decide the top teams in Europe for sure.
And we're going to 2 of them can't win the Champions League.
No, they
one
can't.
Will fail.
Right.
Somebody will fail.
And I'm suggesting both could fail.
And both could fail.
The Champions League could end with neither of the two.
One will win the Premier League.
That's why I joined Real Madrid.
Where does that put the statement that these are the best two teams in the world?
My friend, is the argument.
That's why I joined Real Madrid, based on how they're playing in the Champions League.
Well, let's see. Can we check in the results for the full list of fixtures from round 32 in England? The City-Liverpool game we have already discussed. Norwich winning 2-0 at home over Burnley. Leicester at home 2-1 over Crystal Palace. Brentford also winning at home 2-0 over Watford, who continue to be in the relegation scrap. Tottenham by 4-0 over Aston Villa. At Aston Villa, Watford losing 3-0 at home to Leeds. Chelsea 6-0 over Southampton, rebounding from their back-to-back defeats. Chelsea. Brighton 2-1 at Arsenal. Everton winning at home over Manchester United. And Newcastle winning by 1-0 over Wolves. So we go to break. Back with more on The Zone after this.
Thank you for watching Sportsmax on YouTube. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell to stay informed.